Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Robinson, CEO and co-founder of Hireology, and I'm here to give you a quick rundown of what the September 2021 Bureau of Labor Statistics jobs report means for businesses in the hospitality industry. Now, typically, we give an overview of the BLS numbers each month at a higher level, which we've also done for September. But since the hospitality space has been uniquely impacted by this pandemic, we wanted to give the industry its own discussion. So let's dig in. Overall, in September, we saw a gain of 74,000 jobs in leisure and hospitality, by far the most out of any industry that the BLS report tracks. And this growth represents about 38% of all the jobs added in September overall. But typically in the last year, this has been a consistent pattern in hospitality, largely because hospitality jobs were the hardest hit at the onset of the pandemic. So hotels, restaurants, and bars had the most ground to make up. That said, this comes after a rough August for the hospitality space where hiring was stalled, primarily because of the Delta variant, which seems to have reached its peak and is now headed on the decline. Despite hospitality driving a large portion of the new jobs created month over month, but again, with the exception of August, the unemployment rate among folks who identify as hospitality workers is still about 3 percentage points higher than the overall average. This is pointing to just how hard the hospitality space was hit and how far we still have to go before we can reach pre-pandemic numbers. Most restaurants, bars, and hotels had to close down all in-person service, and those of you who did open up again later in 2020 are still not operating quite at capacity, even as we head into 2022. On top of this dynamic, many of the hospitality folks who did lose their jobs at the onset of the pandemic are not necessarily jumping to take the jobs that they had prior to March of 2020. And the last point is something I want to dig into, is all of this in this big move deeply later in this presentation. But before we do that, another number I wanted to point out from September comes from Hireology customers. We took a look at how long it takes for all of our customers to fill their roles on average. And when we broke it down by industry, we found that the time to hire in the hospitality space is nearly 3 days faster than the overall average. What this is telling us is that top talent in the hospitality space is going really fast. People who are motivated and eager to work are accepting new roles very quickly, so long as those roles are right for them. So let's dig into what the implications of all these numbers are on the next slide. Overall, the previous 3 slides are telling us that the hospitality industry is facing a much different and more difficult road to recovery than most others. That's because you were hit the hardest by the pandemic at the beginning, and backfilling these roles is tough given the lingering COVID variants, vaccine hesitancy, and the face-to-face nature of the industry that we're in. So on top of this, there is another factor at play here, and that's what we at Hireology like to call the modern workforce dynamic. Job seekers today just aren't going to go back to the same jobs they had before the pandemic, especially in these lower paying roles that don't offer consistent paychecks, career growth, or any sort of flexibility. Many are finding that financially, it makes more sense to just stay at home than to take the jobs they may have previously accepted or been in before the pandemic. However, hospitality businesses that are able to meet the needs of today's job seekers are actually able to fill their roles really quickly, much faster than businesses in other industries. This means that filling your roster and staffing up to capacity is possible despite the rough job market. But you can't just rely on your traditional recruiting and hiring efforts. So what you used to do just doesn't work the way it used to. So what should you do? Well, first, you need to expand your sourcing efforts beyond traditional job boards. Today, job seekers in the hospitality space are picky and have the upper hand. They aren't necessarily interested in responding to ads online for work, but they're much more likely to have interest in working for an organization that was referred to them by a trusted peer or former colleague. So if you don't already have a robust employee referral program up and running that incentivizes existing employees to refer candidates for open roles, it's time to create one now. Next, make sure you advertise how you're meeting the needs of today's job seekers. And one giant elephant in the room is the hospitality space and its pay. It is a major factor keeping workers from taking on new jobs. So if you can offer higher pay, great. That's not always enough or even possible. Things like committing to offering a guaranteed number of hours to reduce pay uncertainty, offering programs to help with expenses like tuition or credit card bills, and avoiding automatic 401k enrollments that reduce the amount of take-home pay can all make a big difference when it comes to employee satisfaction with their paycheck. And finally, if you're offering what job seekers want, then you're going to see an influx of applicants. So you need to position yourself to move faster on the best ones that come in. Otherwise, they can and will go elsewhere. So this means making sure you have a standard hiring process defined and you're using tools that make it easy for you to move fast. And of course, you need a partner to help you navigate all of this. Reach out to us at Hireology if you're looking for support. Thanks, and we'll see you next month.